Welcome everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. I'm Heidi Marttinen. I'm the editor of the upcoming IMC Yearbook 2026, and it's a real pleasure to welcome you to today's discussion, which is why investment migration should be celebrated, not stigmatized. This topic sits at the very heart of the industry's mission to make the benefits of investment migration not just visible, but understood. And over the past decade, investment migration has also become one of the most debated policy areas globally. It has generated billions in investments, supported tens of thousands of jobs, and revitalized communities, yet often it's spoken about in headlines that focus on controversy rather than contribution. So our purpose today is simple: to reframe that conversation. So to try and show that when implemented responsibly, investment migration can be a lever for growth, innovation, and opportunity. So our format today will be simple and focused. We'll begin with some short opening perspectives from our panelists and with their introductions. And then we'll move into a deeper discussion around economic, social, and ethical dimensions. And finally, we will be taking your questions, so please do send them throughout the webinar into the Q&A chat. And we'll try to cover as many of them as we can, but at the end of the webinar so that we can have a nice discussion with our panelists. So I would like to start with having our two panelists. We have a third one coming in probably in a few minutes, but currently we have our speakers Dilan Raphiann and His Excellency Calvin St. Juste. So ladies first, Dilan, if you would like to introduce yourself, and let's hear.
Hi, Heidi, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, and hello to all who have attended. Yes, my name is Dilan Raphiann. I'm a director at SRM, and I head the investment migration due diligence team. I myself am based in London, as is most of my team, but we have 9 global offices at SRM, and we work very collaboratively to serve exclusively this team. And my team serves government clients, namely those with citizenship or residency by investment programs, and our role is to conduct due diligence for the applications they receive in order for our clients to be able to make informed decisions on whether or not to proceed with said applications. So that's my role. SRM has over a decade of experience working in this industry. I have been with SRM almost as long as that. And in that time, this is where my focus has been. So we were talking earlier, and a lot has happened and continues to change within the landscape of the industry. So the challenge is just keeping abreast of all of that and ensuring, from my perspective, that we remain partners with our clients and support them in any way we can.
Perfect. Thank you, Dilan. And Chairman St. Juste, if you could introduce yourself, please.
Yes, first off, thank you for having me, and let me extend a heartfelt, warm greetings to the audience, whether it's good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're in part of the world. And just by that salutation, it really just lets us know that we are in a global business. As stated, I am chairman, I'm ambassador chairman, Calvin St. Juste. I am the executive chairman for the St. Kitts and Nevis Citizenship by Investment program in St. Kitts and Nevis. For those of you who, surprisingly in this business, who have not heard of St. Kitts and Nevis CBI, I'm always enlightened to share the fun fact that we were the one who actually created the industry. We're the first, and we are still the longest citizenship by investment program, have been in this over 41 plus years, and still have more to do. My role, and keep it simple, is really to ensure on two fronts. the St. Kitts and Nevis citizenship program continues to be a beacon of light and confidence, first to our international partners, who has afforded us the privilege and access in what the whole concept of investment migration is. But most importantly, that we provide that security component as well. And then I think secondly is ensuring that the program truly follows the values and principles, firstly, within St. Kitts and Nevis, as it relates to the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Terence Juste, who has earmarked St. Kitts and Nevis becoming one of the first sustainable island state and country in the Western Hemisphere, making sure that we align our principles and the goals of our program to those. And then most importantly, making sure that the program can demonstrate those investments that touching the lives of our citizens here in St. Kitts and Nevis. So I look forward to the conversation. I think it's going to be enlightening. I'm sure it's going to have some interesting dialogue, and so I look forward to sharing, our small part in this conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And I see our third panelist is here. Is that right? I thought I saw him. Oh, maybe he has disappeared again. Okay, well, we'll try to get our third panelist, Christos Vardikos, online as well as soon as we can. Anyway, so let's continue. So I had let's begin with some opening perspectives. I would like the panelists to share like a short story or a moment where they saw investment migration make a real positive difference or impact. Just a short positive vignette or story. So Dilan, if you would like to start us off with that.
Sure. I think Mr. Chairman will have so many of these, as do I. I mean, there is not one single one I can point to. As a due diligence provider, we see so many applications from across the world, so many different demographics, backgrounds, all corners of the world applying for their own reasons. Many of them legitimate medical reasons, education for their children, freedom of movement for business or other purposes. And so there are so many examples that come through all the time. And I was a case manager for many years, meaning that I edited the reports and delivered directly to our clients and would read and research a lot of the cases. So too many to point to. In addition to that, in sort of industry circles, attending conferences, you often meet with those who have subsequently gained citizenship or residency in one of the programs, and speaking to them, learning about what prompted the application in the first place, how their lives have subsequently been impacted and changed for the better, their view and feelings towards their new nation, their contributions and their ambitions to contribute going forward. Some of them have moved, some of them have not, but view their new nations in really high regard. And so there are so many examples like that flow through my mind, from so many different parts of my line of work that I've heard, having done this for the time that I have, that I couldn't possibly mention any one single one.
Yes, excellent. And Chairman St. Juste would be a nice positive impact story that you could share.
Yes, as Dilan said, there's so many, but quite interesting. I said most recently there were two, so I'm going to give two perspectives.
Okay.
One would be for a recent citizen who participated in our annual investment gateway summit last year. I should say this year. It's so fast. The year's almost finishing, so this year. And it was a very successful individual who really wanted the opportunity in terms of whether it's mobility, asset protection. But what was the most impactful for him, being a very successful individual, but is when he landed in St. Kitts and Nevis, and he's indicated when he entered at the immigration And he shared, obviously when he entered into the country, and entered the line as a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis. The immigration officer didn't simply just said, stamp his and entered. He told him, welcome home. And that in of itself was a clear indication of him being part of the fiber of the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. And it's, we unfortunately continuously hear the unspoken negative about this being transactional, but we're dealing with people, and hearts and lives is what this program offers. And, we always assume individuals have negative aspect versus the true nature of someone now having a second home and being told upon his first entrance, his first visit, and being told that welcome home, that he's seen as a citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis, and he's part of the fiber as Kittitians and Nevisian. The second component is actually one of our citizens here in St. Kitts and Nevis, them being shared as a reward of one of the outcome of the tangible aspect that the investment has brought, which is affordable homes. And we have one of our called public benefit option that we have in our program is to provide public benefit tangible assets that these investments can truly touch the grassroots of our citizens. And it was a single mother who is now going to be offered an affordable home and has been renting with her 3-4 children over the years. Wow. And seeing that the program really now has a tangible impact, and hearing that it's not just a home, but it's a legacy, a generational legacy that she can pass on to her children that she's never had before. And these are the things and the stories that I think sometimes we don't get to hear. And so we want to make sure that these are the ones that are highlighted on the aspect of what these programs can do, both for the investors, but most importantly as well for the citizens in these countries. So those really are the two key. I mean, as Dilan said, there's many, but those are the most impactful ones that you can see from two sides of the spectrum.
Yes, no, that's wonderful examples. I see our third panelist, Christos Vardikos, has arrived as well. So I would
arrived long time, but I understood what was the problem. I was on a flight, and the lady next to me spit a full coffee on my keyboard, so I was not able to pass any passwords. So now we.
Well, we're glad you are here and you're safe and sound.
Yes. Would like
so if you could introduce yourselves, just give a small introduction, and then we can move on. Thank you.
Greek lawyer by profession, and since 2005, I'm the consul of Dominica in Greece. I'm an authorized agent, local agent for the Dominica program, and this is my core business in CBI the past 20 years. I mean, I've been dealing with the Dominica program the past 20 years. So just to recap on the topics that we have, and Dominica and St. Kitts are the oldest programs in the industry. St. Kitts started in 1984 and Dominica 1993, and all these years both countries and both programs have evaluated, and they have created, they have directed all the proceeds of the CBI to infrastructure. I mean, Dominica, the CBI is a game changer because there is infrastructure for hospitals, there is housing, and now the last projects that are being financed by the CBI is the airport and the marina.
Okay, so, well, we'll get to the details of the programs in a moment. We're just about to dive into more of the deeper discussion. So actually how I would like to, since we are kind of trying to change the conversation about investment migration. So I would say let's start from the very beginning. So What do you think, since you are professionals in this industry, long-standing professionals in this industry, what do you think is the single biggest misunderstanding about investment migration today? And I would throw this to Dilan first.
The main misconception is that it's the purchasing of a passport and it's a entirely commercial exchange based on no proper vetting, nothing comprehensive in terms of compliance, no consideration. And this is a commercial product, which it's far from the reality. The programs are very robust and continue to emphasize the importance of this. Maybe this will come up later in our discussion, but obviously a lot in the Caribbean right now is a lot of work behind the scenes on getting regulated. Obviously, that's a huge step in that direction. But as long as I have been a due diligence provider and worked with citizenship and residency by investment programs, we have our due diligence processes have been very extensive, very nuanced. Nothing is taken at face value. Nothing is reflected as black and white. Information is gathered from multiple sources in very creative ways, relying on extensive human and digital sources. Obviously, the landscape, technological advancements, and so forth mean that we're constantly adapting these and moving and adding additional ways in which we can gather information and present our findings. So this information and that is subsequently put into perspective for our clients. There is context provided so that the information gathered can be put into simple terms for a subsequent decision to be made. That we have one probably relatively small role in a much wider cog. I mean, the units themselves conduct their own. They have their own vetting processes, as do the agents, before an application is even submitted. And there are regional bodies that contribute information as well. There is now information sharing, or there has been, but increased information sharing. There are so many pools from which information is gathered and in sources that are utilized in order for any one decision to be made. I'd say that is, from an outside view, the conclusion that people tend to jump to and where the scrutiny is mainly rooted. And this is the challenge that all of us who work in the industry have a role in sort of re-navigating that discourse and at least correcting our involvement and our role in ensuring that the message, the reality is conveyed.
Very good, thank you. And Chairman St. Juste, obviously being from St. Kitts, and as you've just shared with all the participants, being the oldest program, I mean, you've seen many things over the years in this industry. So in your view, what is the single biggest misunderstanding about investment migration currently?
Well, thank you. Quite a timely question, because the industry is going through a transformative moment. And similar to Dilan's point, there is this misunderstanding that investment migration is simply selling passport, and that's absolutely false. It truly represents a lifelong commitment and a profound responsibility, and that's critical. For us in St. Kitts and Nevis, as you pointed out, we have seen it all, and being the longest, we know all eyes to some degree would look upon us because we have sort of been through and tested and been tested throughout the journey. So for us, for genuine investors, it's really about belonging. It's about contributing and building a future within a nation that values, whether it's unwavering stability, global integrity, and robust security. That's how our program is built. But I'll go a little further. we in St. Kitts and Nevis, we don't just hear the concerns from our international partners regarding security, or to Dilan's point, the lack of due diligence, which is absolutely false, because we go through an extensive due diligence and vetting process. But for us, our program, the integrity of our program is really a direct link to the integrity of global finance, of financial and security system. And so we view that critical, because that's critical. It's not just vetting an individual, but also vetting the source of wealth to prevent and de-risk any potential risks in relation to anti-money laundering or terrorism finances. And St. Kitts and Nevis has been the forefront in really a reform. We didn't wait for mandates. We began moving forward as a leader in changing the narrative. As many of you will be aware, we began the participation with our international partners, collaborating with the US, the UK, and engaging in what we call now the 6 principles. I'm actually here in Antigua meeting with our partners in regards to making sure we demonstrate, along with my fellow CBI colleagues, to demonstrate the robust and intense security that we put in that each of these applicants should, to demonstrate that we hear your concerns and here's what we're doing. And when we talk about here's what we're doing, we go through a 4-layer due diligence process, whether it's biometric collections, and most recently, we just launched blockchain verification in the due diligence reporting. Again, one of the first in the business to demonstrate that we're forward thinking. There's in interviews as our partners significantly. There's in-person virtual interviews. We also go to forensic financial auditing, ensuring that the vetting process and the due diligence is partnering with international law enforcement agencies. Each individual goes to the UN, the EU sanction list. We look at the OFAC, our Financial Intelligence Unit. And we do a comprehensive, we even go to the social media screening. And I don't think people understand to the extent, because it's not just you may have passed through a the due diligence process, but do you bring disrepute to our country? So individuals may have had the various check boxes and even have all the various visas access, but we deny them because we value, as you said, changing that narrative where someone unfortunately would have done something that we see would bring disrepute to our country, but even more so the program. And even further to that, we have been the leader. As I said, I'm here. We're having a conversation with the regional regulator, and we were the one who actually drove to say, listen, this industry that we have been part of for 40+ years, we need to have a body that demonstrates that level of integrity. So we were the driver behind getting the MOA with all the various CBI countries, and now the driver in getting the recently signed Eastern Caribbean Central Bank regulator authority in place. And so for us in St. Kitts and Nevis, as pointed out, because we've been the longest and we see this, we understand that it's important that we have to be the forefront and not wait for these misunderstandings, but demonstrate in various ways. And even lastly, what I would say is even with the aspect of most recently, the establishment of Genuine Link in our partners and the EU concern, and so we've introduced new regulations, which will be taking place with this physical residency requirements, and that's going to be across various countries, because it is important that we understand and we demonstrate as sort of the leader outside that these misunderstandings cannot continue and prevail further. Because unfortunately, we recognize that one single weak link affects everyone. And that is what we are seeing. And that's why we are making all the various inroads of showcasing transparency, demonstrating that we okay in even to some degree. You know, one of the most difficult thing that the Prime Minister did when he architected significant reforms is to said, listen, we are going to go through a very difficult period with a reduction in our revenue to strengthen the program, to demonstrate that the longevity of the program must continue. And so now we're at the point where we can confidently say we've put all the various guardrails and continue with the collaboration and partnership around making sure that we demystify and de-risk the program from this misunderstanding.
Excellent, thank you. And Christos, obviously I want to hear your thoughts about the biggest misconceptions.
Make some remarks. I will just say some remarks. When in the market there was only St. Kitts and Dominica, the programs were destined to high net worth individuals. They were destined to people who wanted to have a dual citizenship or a second citizenship for various reasons. That could be estate planning, that could be any. The misconceptions and the problems arose after 2013 when everybody came into the market. Just to point out that Dominica, since up to 2014, had an interview, and the interview was a strict interview with the applicants. They had to speak English, and they had to prove a genuine link, the genuine link that we're seeking now in 2025. Dominica had it all over the years, and we abolished it. We abolished the interview in 2014. So at this interview, the applicant had to know not basic things of Dominica. He had to know the political system, how the government works, geography. So then at that time, you had people who were successful applicants who had passed already the due diligence process at the time, which was always stringent and it was always strict. So they had to pass and they had to speak English. So the abolition of the English language and the abolition of the interview and the intrusion of all other players in the market has degraded the level of the applicants, and there is this class of applicants who have in their mind that they buy something. It's not a commodity. They become nationals of a country. They have to adhere to this country. They have to know the principles of this country. They have to feel that they belong to this country. This is the investment migration is not a commodity that people can afford it and they have it, or they find a loophole on the cost and they have it. I'm talking about the problems of in various countries where there is pricing undercutting. So I just to conclude, I hope that the regulator that is going to be incorporated now is going to be to give a new elan to the whole region, and is going to provide a new framework that all the international players and the stakeholders and the different countries that the Caribbean countries are ally with, everybody is going to be satisfied that the level is a correct level and that the applicants satisfy the minimum requirements.
Yeah. And actually, Christos, I would, since you already touched upon a little bit earlier when you came on, about talking about investment in infrastructure and stuff. So maybe you could continue off that a little bit to share cases where investment migration has created lasting local benefit for example, in job creation and infrastructure investments, where these have had real impact. So you touched upon it briefly there earlier, but perhaps you could expand on that a little bit.
I can expand in another aspect. Now
Yes,
that
please.
every country is going to impose the minimum residence requirement, this is going to boost the economies of the islands. All the hotels are going to benefit from that. So Dominica has this division. I mean, our real estate option is approved government projects that are mainly hotels. So that means that this new legislation that is coming is going to benefit the existing hotels and the hotels that are being built, because there are going to be people who are going to come into the island. And as far as it is concerned for the past, the program has benefited the island mainly for housing purposes, for infrastructuring, and I think that the game changer for our tourism industry is the new airport that is being it's not accomplished yet, but it's at a good stage of being accomplished.
Excellent. And perhaps Chairman Juste, maybe you would have some examples as well where this kind of investment has created infrastructure or local benefits, tangible benefits for communities.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, similarly in our jurisdiction, the coordinator of the investment has been significant in moving our small nation forward. Whether it's, we have part of our Sustainable Island State contribution, and those funds go directly into infrastructure development. They go into social development programs that really affords our citizens the opportunity to continue to have the basic needs, as a great roads, whether it's subsidizing to some degree some of the electricity high costs, and even furthermore, one of the key things that we've seen is we want to ensure that we demonstrate that these programs, the tangible investment, truly impact the lives. As I mentioned earlier, we've participated as part of our public benefit option. The investment is we have affordable homes that's being built. Up to 200, 300 homes that are being built at this point in time. And that's tangible aspect. And I'll go even further. I shared the end goal of our citizens. But the investor, a very wealthy individual, and he said it basically, he said, I know where I came from. And I want my children to understand that, yes, they may have had a privileged life, but let's demonstrate the legacy and impact of what this program has done, not only for me in terms of what it has afforded me, but also the fact that it can contribute to lives of individuals. It also has built schools. Now we're in the process of building schools. Our Bastion High School in St. Kitts. We wanted, because again, our future leaders have to be ready for what the new world is going to be. No longer, we talk about pen and paper. We are now in AI, and then recently there's generative AI in terms of all the new technologies that's out there. So we want to continue. So we have that. The airport, the expansion of our airport. We have one of the largest hotels. We have hotels, whether it's the Marriott, that we have here, where St. Kitts has participated, Park Hyatts, a very leading, Four Seasons participates in this. A number of our tourist aspect, but most importantly, the job creation it brings and the advancement of our citizens. And we cannot forget, and I always say this, the programs in partnership with our international partners, that we have to ensure that we respect the sovereignty, rules, and regulation of our international partners, as we want the investors to respect ours. And so that is critical to our DNA, because that is one of the reasons why we respect the privilege that our international partners, such as the EU and the UK, has provided us. So we ensure that our values align to their values, and their values align to ours. And so we've actually began even with grassroots community initiative. For example, one of the key things we've just recently rolled out is a grant to about 25 small business and micro business. We're very direct. It's not just small business, but micro business, the hairdressers, the vendors on the side, will get this grant to move from survival to sustainability. And that is a significant impact that we are seeing, not just, as I said, infrastructure, social development. These are things that we know, but we also wanted it to be the fact that we want to be sustainable, that our citizen program, we no longer use citizenship by investment. It is our citizenship program that has demonstrated the forward thinking and the advancement of St. Kitts and Nevis.
Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about communication and perception. I mean, we kind of touched upon also on the fact that with so many things happening in this industry and changes happening, and there's geopolitical things happening, and with these misconceptions about the industry as well, we might have practitioners here currently listening to this webinar as well. What kind of, let's say, tools or tips would you give to practitioners in this industry, how to build public trust, how to change this narrative, how to maybe use these success stories, maybe something very practical that you could share with maybe practitioners who haven't been in the industry for so long, so that the industry collectively could help change these misconceptions and reputational issues that still plague the industry. Let's start with Dilan for a change, if you've got some ideas on this front.
Yeah, sure. I mean, my immediate thought is to increase transparency, use statistics and data to show what's being done behind the scenes, the rates of declines, the demographics that they're seeing, the approval rates, the rejections based on due diligence where possible, alongside or complementing that with human stories, those that have invested, they've built businesses, maybe they've relocated, they've helped citizens of the countries themselves, the impact that they have had, sharing these stories, to essentially over time to change the perception from one rooted in suspicion to one of understanding. I think those are small steps, many of which have actually already been taken to some degree, that if continued, will no doubt continue to have a positive impact in this regard.
Excellent. And Christos, what are your thoughts on this? What kind of tips and tools could you give other practitioners as well that would help the industry collectively build more public trust around these issues?
I would like to say that the phase that we are currently in is basically one major role is that the practitioners are not, let's put it that way, they can be qualified, but they are not regulated. Mm-hmm. I am of the opinion that the practitioners in the field should be practitioners who are regulated by a regulated body in their country of practice. Today, you have agents, sub-agents, who barely have the education and barely have barely understand what they are doing in this industry. They see figures and they consider the product, if we put it like that, as a product, as a commodity. So first of all, I think that the practitioners have to be fully regulated from the local agents who are already regulated to the promoters and to the sub-agents of the promoters. I believe that the advertising tools have also to be regulated. We are not giving out kilos of potatoes and tomatoes to have photos coming out with passports and any other sort of gimmicks in order to attract clients. And for practitioners who are new, who are always welcomed, my advice is understand what is the service you are providing, first of all. Understand your client, understand also the concept, what is the citizenship program that you are giving out, and understand what the applicant has in his mind, what is his real need, and then propose and then promote. You need to get into your client's needs, first of all, because unavoidably we need applicants. The programs need applicants, but you need to understand what the applicant really needs, not what is your better commission or your better, you can only do this project and you just give it out. So regulation and fully understand what is the service you are providing. This is my
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. And Chairman St. Juste, what would your thoughts be here on practical tools and tips on how to build trust?
Well, what I would say first and foremost to new practitioners, it is truly understanding the industry is not a transactional one, because I think sometimes that's what the framework, as we talked earlier, come in. And it really starts with you being an ambassador for the programs, because you're the first point of contact that the clients are going to engage, understanding these programs and what the benefits are. And if you approach it without the integrity that we always talk about, if you approach it without the trust that we want to see these programs demonstrate, then you've already begun at the negative. Because one, it also starts with improper marketing. And that's really where we see a number of the challenges. Because improper marketing, it damages the program. These practices must stop, whether it's underselling. And I follow the model. If you see something, say something. Because if you remain silent, you're complicit. And you cannot at any point inside say, well, it's not me, because it's all of us are in it together. And it goes back to what we said, where the misunderstanding or the misconception. And these words in of itself resonate negativity. And at no point in time, they simply just transform themselves. It's because something has happened, something has occurred. And so we have to ensure that we talk about the genuine link, but we also have a genuine link. Each and every one of you have a genuine link to maintain, to be an ambassador to the countries that you're representing, to ensure that the integrity and the responsibility sits on your domain, so that collectively, as we talk about the regional regulator who perhaps may be doing the monitoring, but also we have to be self-regulated. We've been self-regulated for 40 plus years. And the advent of new players and new practitioners coming in, they must start at the right foundation. And also to our partners, our Diddy firms and who've been with us. We also indicate the advocation of you are aware of the extensive vetting and exposure that these applicants go through. And for someone to go through that, to relegate themselves to that extreme, due diligence and vetting and understanding everything about them, we call it the DNA of the client. For someone, a bad actor, to put themselves through that, it's almost difficult. So we want our partners to also advocate and help change the narrative. But for the practitioners, that's really what I would start with. It is always enter the program understanding that you are the ambassador first. You are based on your interaction and your engagement. That is the perception that the clients and the investors will have of this program. And this is what's going to propagate whether or not we're able to transform the programs into what they truly are, national development tools, programs that respect the sovereignty of our international partners and abide by the core principles of true integrity and trust to ensure that they are seen positively and the impact they have on the lives of the citizens, and also making sure that new citizens can truly value their participation in these programs.
Excellent. Yeah, so very good points here. And now we touched upon regulatory issues slightly there. And how can the industry collectively guard against this kind of misuse and to ensure investment migration doesn't become a vehicle for illicit activity? Because these would only reinforce those misconceptions. And since Dilan, you are very much a compliance expert, I would like to put this question to you about how could the industry better collectively guard against misuse and against illicit activity?
Yeah, I mean, so the due diligence process, and it's not just ours, as I said earlier, everyone has a role to play and conducts vetting to some extent, has to remain incredibly robust. And I say remain because it is, but there are always new trends, patterns that we identify during the course, and as the landscape changes and risks adapt, the concerns also change over time or transform. So keeping up to date on those, ensuring as a DD provider, ensuring our clients are made aware of these changes, what they should be looking out for, what does it mean for them as programs, should they be shifting the way in which they view certain applications. We try to provide as much context as possible to support with that. But I mean, really robust due diligence across the board, ensuring that, we've touched on an AI, and there are certainly benefits to AI, namely efficiency, and there are ways in which it can be utilized very purposefully, meaningfully, that can benefit the process. However, not over-relying on anything automated like that, and ensuring that at the root, we are still using a very human-heavy overlay to provide the assessment, because that cannot be, there is no contribution that AI can make in that regard, at least not in today's day and not in the near future. The assessment component has to remain human assessment based on our understanding regionally and across sectors. That process being robust is really key, but also ensuring that the messaging, so that, because the people in the room are probably already aware of that, but to take it wider, ensure that that perception is more widely understood is another challenge in itself. So utilizing platforms like this to discuss it, to clarify, and to be open and transparent about these processes. And to reiterate what's already been said, investing in a program like a citizenship program it's by no means the easy route for citizenship. It is not a shortcut. It opens up individuals to be completely exposed to certainly to our processes. I think more and more that is becoming understood, but of course there will, in any facet of life, there will be bad actors. it continues to be our role to identify them and to identify if there's anything bigger at play, and to contribute to the programs in a way that allows them to really understand the bigger picture of an individual application, and make a decision that comes with that they are confident, and thereby they retain the integrity of their programs, they retain the reputation, and they also continue to garner consistent interest from other applications. The trust that builds that we spoke earlier is going to be paramount.
Excellent. Now, since we are running short on time, but I do want a last thought from each of you. If you could deliver one message to a skeptical policymaker, what would it be? And keep your answers short. Let's start with Christos.
Well, I believe that regulating is the most important thing. Not regulating the local agent or the promoter, but regulating even the sub-agent, the first contact of the client abroad. This is the most important thing. Regulating the agent, and regulating also the undercutting of the pricing, that it's a practice which is unfortunate in some of the islands that it's happening, and it creates an immigrational bomb that in the future it might explode, because it is better to have 1,000 people who have spent $500,000 to invest and become citizens of a country, and it's very bad to have 10,000 who have spent only 100,000 in order to become citizens. These, unavoidably in the future, can become a bomb that, when it will explode, it will be very late for everybody.
Excellent. And Chairman St. Juste, what would your message be to skeptical policymakers?
Well, I think it may take up more than just this limited time we have.
Your elevator pitch.
What I would say is, investment migration is really a bridge. And it's a bridge between global opportunity and national development. And this is the core piece. It's built on verifiable trust, institutional transparency, and shared prosperity. And one of the core aspects I think we need to understand is that it's underpinned by world-class due diligence initiatives and processes. I think the earlier question was around, what can we do to protect? Protecting the integrity of these programs, it's a collective responsibility. No one single country can safeguard the system in isolation, and that's critical. So I think as there is an element of understanding the transformation that we are now part of, that what is currently in place and what continues to be in place is critical for policymakers and for individuals who look at this program, to understand what's involved around it. The scrutiny that was put in part of it, and now as we are seeing the formation of a program that was unregulated, now it's going to be regulated. So there's going to be a body of voice that's going to be centralized, that's going to help with the harmonization. St. Kitts and Nevis, as I said, we were the one who drove it. We were not waiting. We decided to make very difficult reforms, and we also wanted to make sure our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean come along. We said, let's sign a memorandum of agreement to ensure that there's no understanding, we normalize the price point. We also said, let's make sure that we have a regional regulatory. We were the ones who drove, and now we can happily say we've signed. It's now in law. In almost 99% of the countries. That is what we need to ensure that's continued. Because what the risks are today, I assure you next year, there are new risks that we haven't even seen. And so collectively, we need to ensure that we are each other's brothers and sisters, ensuring that we are the ambassadors for these programs.
Well, that's a wonderful, wonderful note. So because we're even going into overtime, but there's been a very, very interesting discussion, and I hope everyone has enjoyed it and found it interesting. We will also be having another webinar on the 7th of November at the same time with the topic Rethinking Residency, the Rise of the Multi-Home Individual. And there will be a link in the chat for you if you want to register for that webinar. And there will also be a link in the Q&A about if you want to be involved in the yearbook, which will be coming out soon. So you will find more information in it in the QA section. My colleague should be putting some links up there. So I would love to thank our wonderful panelists, Dilan, Chairman St. Juste, and Christos. This has been very, very enlightening, and I hope everyone's enjoyed it. And we hope to do more of this and keep the conversation going.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.